Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. I'm Don Helbig alongside Ryan Sir. And Ryan, I had an interesting thing happen to me today. I'm at Best Buy. I'm looking for a new laptop, and the sales associate there, she comes up to me and she says, "Excuse me, are you one of those people on the Attractions Group podcast?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I am." And she said that her and her husband, they listen to it all the time. And I started asking about what episode she liked, and about the mobile app episode that we did early on was her favorite. But I guess that means we're kind of arriving, Ryan. People are starting to recognize us on the streets.
That's kind of exciting. I've never done very well with people coming up to me and talking to me, and I'm not sure if I know them or not. When I ran the fan site, that used to happen a lot, but you seem to know everybody that talks to you, so that probably went pretty well. But that's pretty cool. Yeah, the mobile app episode, I think it was episode 2. That was a really popular one, like many, many downloads. So, Don, what we got going on
Yeah.
today?
Well, Ryan, we're in the midst of the announcement season. It starts in like early August, but still going on, as we get toward the fall here. But I thought we'd talk about announcements, kind of a how-to guide on, what are some of the best ways to introduce your new capital.
That's really cool, Don. I mean, you've been involved in several announcements. I've been present for several announcements. So this will be a good dynamic conversation between the two of us as far as what we think works and what we think doesn't work, because it seems like we would have separate objectives. For me, it's about discovery and excitement. And for you, it would be about media reach and buzz and things like that. So, Don,
Yeah, and I was on your side of the fence for a long time
oh,
too,
yeah.
Ryan. So, I remember back then. But when I was, first getting involved with the industry and interested in it, first as a guest, and then in the early years of working in the industry, the way we did it was you sent out a press release and just announced what you were doing. You might have a little bit of a teaser campaign like that going on in the park, but it was pretty much, a release, and maybe you had some assets ready to go at that time that you could accompany the release. But, it was always starting to happen, in the last 10, 15 years, people, the park's doing it in the fall, in conjunction with season passes and things like that going on sale. But it's really evolved.
Yeah, it certainly has. And one thing that actually came up a couple times is, it's just a evolution in the past 30 or so years that you would make the announcement in August, September. I mean, well, first of all, the time frame is kind of unique because it was much later very often, but you wouldn't have a ride name in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. You would announce a concept, and then the name would be much closer to opening, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly the way they did it. In fact, oftentimes it was, unless construction was visible, in the summer months, July and August, September, late November, December, maybe even January is when the new capital would be announced. And, like you said, they wouldn't even have a name with it yet. That didn't come about until maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks before the park opened. So it's really come a long way.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a different world. Do you think that the sale or the advent, shall we say, of season passes played a big role in that? Since now in August you're already looking towards next year as far as selling tickets, or do you think that it's just because people know more now? You got smart marks out there.
Well, I think it's a combination of the two. I mean, your guests, they definitely, they're interested, they're curious, they're digging around. They're going to pretty much know what you're announcing. They're not going to have some of those details, like maybe what color the trains are, what color the tracking, might be. But in terms of a layout, maybe even the manufacturer, I mean, it's not too much of a secret anymore what you're going to announce when you announce it. So it's changed that way. But also, I mean, it creates a lot of interest with passes going on sale for the next season, that you want to get everybody excited. You want to get them to renew in the fall and get yourself off to a good start from the park perspective for the following season.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it seems like they do go hand in hand. It seems like I'm the announcements that I've seen are typically, this is our new announcement. Oh, by the way, season passes are on sale later today. So when it's 2022 and you're starting to look at 2023, obviously there's a revenue factor going into that. Well, and plus, like you're right. A lot of people will know the manufacturer, they'll know the layout, they might know the name, because they've copyrighted some. But I think that from my perspective, and maybe this is telling you this now because I don't know if we ever discussed it, but it doesn't take as much away from the excitement as you might think from the park standpoint. Because, for example, they just, I tweeted about this yesterday. Apple announced the new iPhone 14s. Well, there, if you think that amusement parks are bad, you should see Apple fans as far as knowing every little detail and supply chains out of China and everything. But those little nuggets of information that you didn't know, they hit like an anvil. Like you get so excited about these things that you didn't know because you thought you knew everything going in. So I would say that it's very similar. Like I remember, part of when I was in attendance for the Orion announcement in 2019. I can't believe how long ago that was now. Um, we knew it was a Giga. We knew the height. We knew essentially the layout. We knew a couple of different possible names, but we didn't have much detail on the theme and stuff. So to find that out was like just as good emotionally as any other announcing a ride completely out of the blue. What are your thoughts on that? Did you know a lot going into announcements? So let's say before you were in the industry, since you were kind of in the know. Like what did you know typically?
Well, not as much, with the different parks as I would today because, there's social media today. There's the fan sites, the coaster clubs. There's more than just, one back then, it's pretty much the American coaster enthusiasts. So there's a lot more ways to find out, what the discussion is and all the rumors and, other things about that go into these announcements, so just more ways for that noise to be out there than there was, back then when I was visiting parks. But, I had a little bit of an idea sometimes, you could see where they were going to put something with, the timeline, maybe it's every third, fourth, fifth, sixth year or whatever, it was going to be more of a thrill ride, a roller coaster. In other years, it might be something with a water park or maybe something in the kids area. So you kind of, know about, where something might go, and that kind of indicated too what's going to be.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, again, times have changed quite a bit since then. Now, for almost all major announcements, not all, but almost all, there's usually some sort of teaser campaign, and sometimes that pops up as early as opening day for the season before. What goes into a successful teaser campaign? Like, how do you decide you give them enough to make them interested, but not enough to spill the beans? Where do you walk that line?
Yeah, that's exactly what you have to do. Is you have to keep keep it interesting for them. You want to drop a series of clues, but not enough that they guess it early on. So you kind of want to starting when your season opens. Say it's in April, and you almost have to because of where it's going, and everybody can kind of see it, and they walk by certain sections of the park. You would start it then, but yeah, you want to kind of just drop nuggets here and there, and then just keep the discussion going. And that's one of the really fun things when you're on the park side is watching all of that discussion, all that speculation, and seeing who's zeroing in on it, and who's way out to watch with that. But there's different ways to do it too. If you don't have a teaser, sometimes that it's kind of like maybe a week or two before you're going to announce, start to put something out there. You have to let people know that you're doing it. If you're going to invite
Right.
media or other guest
Yeah.
influencers or whatever out to the park for an announcement, so you have to kind of start getting that out there. So there's a lot of different ways, and that brings me up to my next question for you, Ryan. Like I said, when I first started getting interested, involved in the industry, it was pretty much they would send out a press release and you'd read about it in the newspaper the next day, or maybe that night, on the news, they would talk about it, but they didn't have the assets or anything like that to really build up the anticipation. But you've been around where you've seen them done in park.
Right.
You've been around where you've seen announcing it on social media. You've
Right.
seen the traditional way of doing it. So, on your perspective, what way engages you the most?
So, from a guest standpoint, this is going to be kind of counterintuitive to what might be beneficial to you, okay? Because for me, I
Mhm.
would say that if you start on day one and say something's coming next year, and you kind of allude to the theme, and then you give a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then make a big deal about the announcement. To me, I've always felt like the anticipation is always a lot more interesting than the ride itself, because I'm not one of those people that will go to a park and do 100 rides on this or that or whatever. I like the atmosphere and everything surrounding the park. I'm a rides guy too, don't get me wrong, but um so to me it's like the anticipation. So if there's a new ride in 2023 2022 is far more pleasurable to me because I love anticipating and trying to figure out and discussing it with other people. But that drives me to my next question for you though. So at what point with that are you having people not focus on this year but focusing on next year to the point where it hurts your business? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that it necessarily does hurt, where people are going to really delay their visit to the next year. I think people, they become curious. They want to come out and see if there's construction going on. They want to see that progress. They want to try to find the next series of clues in that. So I don't know that necessarily, hurts the next year's business. I think you something that's going to take away if you have a big um, like event, you have a festival or, um, an anniversary celebration, something like that. You don't want to take away from that. So you'd wait till those things were done before you would do it. But I don't know that people necessarily are going to not come to your park and wait until the next year until they know what it is. Once they know what it is, they might do that. But beforehand, I think they like to play the game too. They like to check out the clues and all the teaser things you might have around the park. It's a lot of fun for them.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I've been using the term smart mark for this, and I don't use that as derogatory because I definitely fall into that category. But I wonder if more so now than ever in the past, if seeing things like construction is like I'd buy a ticket to go see the construction. I want to go to Dollywood to see how their new Great Bear coaster is coming along and stuff. Like I wonder if that is because I can tell you this. Observed in the last 10 or so years that a lot more people are a lot more intelligent about rides and seeing that this same manufacturer made that ride is like you and me and 12 other people would know who aerodynamics is in 1980. That's not directly in the industry, but I've noticed that people understand like, oh, it's a new Intamin coaster, it's a new B&M coaster and stuff. More so, just random people that are in park. Now, granted, like these are park people in parks, not people at McDonald's, but I almost wonder if that is a leverage that is almost unknown, where like there's an old school belief that the average person doesn't care when they do. Like, what are your thoughts when you're talking to people, Don? When you're walking around at a park, do you feel like people know more than they used to? Or do you think it's just people that know you would know more than they used to? Because it's a difficult
No, I
question.
mean they definitely know more than they used to just because of social media today. Websites, different fan sites, their friends, that go to parks. There's just a lot more ways for that to get communicated than there was, 15, 20 years ago, where it was, pretty much waiting on the park to announce something. They just didn't have ways to create that kind of awareness past being at the park. Now, if you were there, you saw it. But today, you don't even have to know what somebody's doing because everyone's talking about it.
Oh yeah, I just assume that everybody's at the park at this point, honestly. Because with social media, it's
Yeah.
just as good. And then you get internal leaks and stuff too. Like, it's like with like Dark Castle at Busch Gardens. There was like a lot of construction photos and stuff of track laying around and stuff over the past year, 18 months, or however long it's been shipped in. Which it all feeds into it. So we've discussed this before, but how does this pertain to like press releases? Because you've said blogs and social media posts and stuff are the new press releases. Press releases are, for most accounts, dead. But if you're doing a major announcement, do you still go old school? Is that still a piece of the pie? And is it still a major piece of the pie?
Well, I mean, the press release there still is a place for it, and this is one of those times where there is a need for that because you want to detail everything that's going on with the project, with the new capital there. So it's not dead yet, but yeah, I mean, I am a strong believer that the printing press today is Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, even TikTok, your blogs. I mean, so there's so many other ways to tell that story than you had before with just a press release. That was the tool you had. That was the toolkit that I broke into when I got our was the press release. So it certainly has evolved from that, but it still has a role in this when you're announcing new capital.
Yeah, most certainly. And it's funny because the dynamic is so strange because obviously there's a need for press releases. And for me, as somebody that utilized press releases for writing articles for, the fan site I ran and stuff, it's great for quick reference. How tall is it? How fast does it go? Okay, cool. Because as you probably remember, I didn't copy and paste a press release. I would write my own article because in my opinion, I was taking it seriously, and whether or not that was true, I don't know. But there have been several times when I've seen parks write a blog, and it's information, but then very evidently media outlets run with the blog as if it were a press release. Do you think that's the future of this stuff?
I think it's still both. The blog's certainly going to be there. You can do it in more of a storytelling fashion with your blog, and you're writing the article, yourself as if you were a journalist covering your part. That's what you're doing with your blog, or a what, when, where, why type of material, a tool right now that it always has been, where it's not, you're not really telling a story so much with your press releases as you do with your blogs.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a pill I can swallow. So let me ask you this. If you were, let's say, a park was in a weird position where they had a social media person but not a PR person. Let's say it's transitional or something like that, and they were going to do a major ride announcement. They couldn't get a PR person. Do you think that they could essentially write a blog that was, I mean, for immediate release, but yeah, forget that. But let's say you're opening Fury 325, and you say, here's the new ride by stats. 325 feet tall, maximum speed, whatever, and so on. Like, do you think that could almost be tantamount for most people? And if Media Inquire, could you refer them to the blog potentially?
Oh, absolutely. You could do it that way. You could do it also. YouTube is another place where you could make your announcement and have all the information there and have the video assets, the trailers and those kind of things as part of that. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. I think, what a lot of places do now, and it's not just in the amusement industry, it's also in professional sports, instead of writing a release, they'll just, tweet something. Just have a few details there, and the media runs with it. You could do that. You don't have that necessarily. Everybody doesn't have their own beat writer, across the nation at all these parks. There's different people that might cover you, like sports has its beat writers. But at the same time, if you don't have between PR people and you're just looking to get that information out there, absolutely the blog integrated on Facebook and Twitter, and the media is definitely going to pick it up.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting in 10 years where the blog versus the press release is, because obviously there's inherent value to the press release. It's good for quick reference. It's good for print media, especially because they love the copy paste.
Now, yeah, now where the press release used to always go out first, maybe now the press release comes out after you've introduced it, with a video on YouTube, that you've integrated across different channels and those kind of things. The other day, when Cedar Point announced its boardwalk that they're going to open next year,
Mhm.
I thought that was an amazing, video that they did. I thought it told a great story. I thought it was very well done, and the media ran with that. They picked that up, and it had all the information that they needed. That's a perfect way to do it. That's a great way to do it.
You know what the quiet brilliance of the Cedar Point announcement was, by the way? It's the fact that their Wild Mouse coaster wasn't too heavily leaned into, because that's one of those things where it's going to be such a great ride. We both are familiar with these rides. It's going to be a great ride. But if you're talking to like a 17-year-old or even like, a 35-year-old enthusiast or something, oh, that's just a family coaster, who cares? But no, they talked about the boardwalk there, the Grand Pavilion, and the ride is part of the package. And so the ride is almost like, oh, wait a minute, we have that to look forward to too. I honestly, I think the Cedar Point announcement, first of all, anytime that they can play on their history, I think is awesome. Because if they can show like creepy Twilight Zone people wearing like old timey clothes and stuff and be like, oh, here we are today, I think that's really neat. But I think that the actual addition and the fact that a coaster of all things is an afterthought was a really good decision by them. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just thought a nice job. I mean, it was, storytelling at its finest about here's what's new in 2023, and it walked you through it. And I thought, It was very, very well done. Much more entertaining than just reading all of those details on a press release, wouldn't you say?
I completely agree, and this is the phraseology that I want to use for this. Um, if you're launching a coaster, if you're Millennium Force, Banshee, whatever, you can put out the POV and stuff, and that can speak for itself. But for things like the boardwalk, I need you to tell me why I want to care. And I think that the fact that we are so blessed by having video as a very readily available option, almost preferred, so they could tell us, because just like anything else, the schematics and stuff for the pavilion were leaked and people were so disappointed. But when they announced it, it was like, that's going to be really cool because,
Yeah.
Tony and his team went on TV or not on TV, they went on YouTube and they said, this is what we're doing. It's going to be really exciting. And this is why. And I think that message resonated.
Yeah, it did. And, the other thing about that, we talked earlier about the teaser campaign and building anticipation and excitement. When you do these YouTube videos like they did, you also have that ability to do a countdown and let everybody know that, it's the announcement's coming in 10 hours, then 9 hours, 8 hours. And you have a lot of people waiting for it when that video goes
Well,
live.
yeah, especially, not to get into the mechanics of YouTube, but I don't know how many YouTube subscribers they have, but I imagine it's substantial. And if they go live 2 hours before, I think is what they did, and it's just a countdown, that's going to garner so many people that get that notification that pop up in YouTube. They probably had a lot of people watching.
Yeah. And if you're a park and you don't have a lot of YouTube subscribers, when you do something, those that do subscribe to you, they're going to be sharing on their channels and
Yeah.
reaching a lot of other people and driving a lot of people to your channel that you don't have, but you're going to have after you announce that.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I wonder if there's ever going to be a hybrid experience. I wonder if that's ever been done where let's say the video that they did, since we're talking about it, is debuted both online and in the park at the same time. So the media can have a hands-on as far as, because remember they used to do a lot of the coaster dynamics models and stuff. I know like for Diamondback they had one,
Hmm.
and that was a really good visual. But what would you think about like a hybrid event for something like that? Because you get the media there and you
Well,
have their commitment. But even if they can't make it, and if you're the average person, you can still participate.
yeah, that's one of the things that's great about doing an in-park announcement is sometimes, uh, if you can't get the media there, you're still involving your guests, and that's who you're doing these things for. I mean, you have 5, 6, 7 months before your new attraction is going to open. So I think it's always great when you can do something at the park and you can invite your to be there to see it. I think it's fun for them. It's a special night or day. If you're doing it in the day, whenever you're doing it, but it's something that it's added value for the guests to be able to see these announcements taking place in person.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's there. I've been present for 4 major announcements. Okay, and it's funny how much they've changed over time. You were involved in all 4. The first one was Diamondback, and remember that was so rudimentary that you had a bunch of people take the cover off the thing that exposed the logo. You'd never do that nowadays. You'd project it or something. But then you had a bunch of screens showing the POV that nobody could see because at the time the technology was only so bright and it was in the sunlight and so on. So that was one thing, and still, I mean, one of the most anticipated announcements I've ever dealt with because that was prime of my time. And then going to Banshee, which was at 10 o'clock at night, which was very unique. We'll touch on that in a second. And then let's just stick with the steel. So forget Mystic Timbers, but then we'll go to Orion. Was Orion at 10 o'clock at night or was it at like 9, wasn't it?
It was a nighttime one at
Was
10
it at 10
o'clock
o'clock?
too, right when
Okay.
the park was
Yeah, I
closing.
remember it being at
Hmm.
night, but I didn't know if it was at night. But you went from the you went from very rudimentary, which was still kind of unique for a seasonal park at the time with Diamondback, and then to Banshee, which there were like the church pews and stuff, and you had the screen and all that, which was just awesome. And then from there, let's zip ahead a few more years with Orion. That was a whole a whole day affair just waiting for this announcement. And there were just thousands of people in what is now known as Area 72. And you had actors involved. There was pyro involved. It's just funny how it's changed. Now, let's to touch back on it. So Diamondback was during the day. It was at like 10 in the morning or
Yeah,
11 in the morning.
traditional. Yeah,
Then you went
traditional
to
2 o'clock in the afternoon, worked perfect for the media, just how they like it.
just how they like it. Now let's talk about how they don't like it. For the next three, you did. You did
Exactly
for
how they don't like it,
for
10 o'clock at night. I
Orion,
remember
Banshee,
yeah,
and Mystic Timbers. You announced at 10 o'clock at night. Let's discuss
yeah,
this
when I sent
timing.
out the Banshee, invitation to the media that we were having an event to announce our new attraction for 2014, every outlet emailed me or called me and said, "There's a typo. You meant 10 a.m., correct?" And I said, "No, 10." And they all, you know, especially the TVs, you're up against deadline for a print
Right.
edition, so the Enquirer and Hamilton Journal up against deadline at that time of night. And then the TVs are like getting ready to go live at that time. This is not good for us. Um, but the way we looked at it was if it didn't work for them that night, we still had the assets and things that we were, the teaser or the trailer video and the POVs and the off ride. So they would have had everything they needed to do their story,
Right.
especially the next morning. So I mean, we weren't too concerned about that, and we knew that we had several months before the attraction even opened
Right.
that this was just the starting point. And um, so we made it about our guest, making it something that was for them. We wanted to have kind of like a rock concert type atmosphere
Mhm.
for it, and it worked. And
Right.
then we found that all the outlets still came out,
Right.
and they found a way to make it work for them. So we had the lives at 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock it went live on the stations that have the 10 o'clock newscast. And so it worked. So you repeated that again with the next couple with Mystic Timbers and also with Orion. So you know, not the ideal way, not the best thing for the media. But if you're looking to do something for your guests, that's a great way to do it. All day long anticipation, people coming to the park, the crowd's just growing and growing in the area where you're going to do it. So it's a lot of fun that way. Uh, but there's other ways to do it too. I mean, we've seen out there. We just talked about Cedar Point and how they did it, by releasing that video. And other parks do the same thing where they're releasing it on social media first and then sending out a press release. I've seen it done very well by parks who announce that they go live on a TV station, one of the networks to live. So there's so many different ways that you can do it. You have to find what's best for your park, and something that you want to just get your guests all excited about. Uh, do you want to make it a nice, video production? So there's so many ways you can do it. There's no wrong way to do it. But the biggest thing about it though is just want to really, really make it something that's going to work for all parties.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that resonates with me was with the Banshee announcement. There was the video because nowadays everything's announced by video, whether it's in person or not. You know, but with the Banshee thing, it started off with Son of Beast collapsing, and that was like an odd amount of closure for like, well, this is the end of that story. You know, so it was kind of fun how that played into it. So I've seen instances, and I'm not going to call out anybody, but a park says we're going to make an announcement, and they invite people, they invite the media, and then people that are like, let's say prominent coaster enthusiasts and stuff, like will fly there, and then the announcement is not what they expect. Like, how do you make that determination where you want to make it exciting, but you don't want to make it a letdown? Obviously, with the big four that we discussed, that was going to be worth your time. You want to be there for that announcement. But I've seen smaller announcements for antique cars and stuff like that, where it's worth for the media to come out and stuff. But what you don't necessarily want to take the time of the president of Ace to hop on a flight from Texas or wherever, for something like
Oh
that. Like,
no,
how do you make that determination?
I mean you temper the expectations with those key influencers and the different enthusiast groups don't do that. I think they also you know they kind of have a pretty good idea what because they've seen before the announcement they've seen the blueprints, they've seen the teaser campaign, they've seen kind of the area where what you're going to do is going to go. So they they pretty much know whether it's going to be something they want to come out for or not. They also know that if they can't make it out, you're going to supply them with everything they need to do their story.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's all about getting people's, the information they need, just like anything else. So Don, do you have any final thoughts on the
Yeah, but
subject matter?
again, there's not a right way. Yeah, I mean, there's like I said, there's so many different ways if you're a park and you've got new capital coming and you're trying to figure out the way to announce it. There's just avenues that you can use today. So many tools that are available to you, whether it's the old way just with a press release. You want to go give it to a TV station, go live in the morning, or with somebody. You want to do a teaser video. Just so many ways that you can do it. But the big thing is just have fun with it, because if you can't be excited about it,
Right. I mean, there's got to be a certain amount of buy-in when it comes to the guests and stuff, or well, with the employees, because if you don't care, they won't care. All right, Don, you know what time it is. It's time for the pick six. Now, I know that we've deviated quite a bit with the pick six recently, with having Jeff Pike on the show and some other things like that. But we're going to do the classic pick six this time, when we choose 6 news stories from around the industry that we find particularly interesting and do a little discussion on them. So, Don, why don't you take the first one here?
well, I'm going to lead off with Busch Gardens Williamsburg announcing Star Coaster. Wednesday. You've seen the video.
I think it's really cool. I love but I think it's really cool that they're finally utilizing that building again. What do you think about it?
Well, I think it's great. I think the theming is going to be outstanding. I really love what they did with the video that they put out there introducing this attraction. 2,400 feet in length. Now it says just 36 miles an hour is the top speed. That might not seem like much, but when you're indoor and it's a lot of twists and turns like that, that's going to seem incredibly fast.
Right.
So very impressed with this new attraction. Can't wait to
Yeah,
try
I
it.
can't either. I'm definitely gonna have to make a trip down to Busch Gardens again next year. All right. So, well, speaking of announcements with Busch Gardens, so good luck to Busch Gardens. Congratulations on an awesome announcement. Okay, so moving down south, let's go to Disney. So Disney Plus Day is actually today, the day of our recording, which is September 8th, 2022. Now, Disney Plus Day is, they're offering special benefits to Disney Plus subscribers. Actually, they're releasing a bunch of films and stuff on Disney Plus, but they're offering different perks in park to Disney Plus subscribers. And this includes early access, which I believe is 30 minutes, free photo pass for the day, special meet and greets, special Disney Plus movie streams at some of the resorts. This is currently being done at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. And again, that's today, September 8th, 2022. I wonder how you prove that you're a Disney Plus subscriber.
I was wondering that, because it would be kind of a little bit difficult to prove, especially if you're at the
Right.
park. But I mean, this is a nice little touch to celebrate the launch of the streaming services that they did back in 2019. It's a nice touch.
Right. And Amazon does something similar with Prime Day. So if every streaming service wants to have their own day where they release a ton of materials and give me a bunch of perks, like, more power to you. Don, what's the next story?
Well, we're going to shift to Alton Towers and Nemesis. It's going to receive the Incredible Hulk treatment. That's what the word is. It's going to be down all of next year. So it looks like it'll come back in 2024, which will be Alton Towers' 30th anniversary. But this is a great coaster. So it's also one that needed a lot of work. So it's good to see it getting some love rather than just being dismantled and something else goes up there.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a testament to B&M, that's the second B&M coaster where as opposed to reaching the end of the service life, tearing it down, and building something else, they reached the end of the service life, they tore it down and built it again. That, and for those of you who don't know, the theory behind this, because they did file permits, it looks like this is going to happen, and it's going to close in the fall, reopen for the 2023 season for its 30th anniversary. But Incredible Hulk,
2024.
That's what I meant. 2024. I'm sorry. Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
closed through the 2023 season is what I meant. But the Incredible Hulk at Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida, they tore out almost all the track, got new trains, rebuilt the track, and it's the same layout and everything, just new trains and all new ride, right? All right.
Yep, just kind of a refurbished project there. So yeah, I mean that's exciting to see. You always want to see you saved when they can be, and this is a great example of that.
All right. Well, continuing with our theme of announcements for this episode, D23 is coming up. So D23 is expected to be held September 9th through the 11th, which is Friday through Sunday this weekend. For those of you listening close to the time when we launch, D23 is when they announce the future plans for all of the Disney parks. I always pay close attention to it because I want to make sure that they're not going to close Tower of Terror at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Don, do you pay attention to D23?
I do, for that same exact reason that there's certain rides, Tower of Terrors, foremost, that I look at there at in Orlando. But yeah, that's you want to pay attention to it because of different things around the parks.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, one thing about Disney parks that's different for those of you who don't know is that, if Six Flags announces an attraction, well, okay, take out the last couple years. Like, let's forget about Aquaman and stuff. That's all COVID stuff. But typically, if Six Flags or Cedar Fair or anybody else announces an attraction, it's open 6 months later. At D23, they'll announce stuff and it doesn't open for 5 years. So for me, it's kind of hard to get excited about it. But at the same time, there's a little bit more involved than just building a coaster when it comes to Disney. All right.
Yeah, and you're talking about those IPs that are out there. Star Wars. You've got Pixar. Disney Animation. So all those different IPs that they own, and how they're going to incorporate that into the parks down the road.
Yeah, I completely agree. So definitely exciting. So Disney, if you're watching, please leave Tower of Terror alone. I love it. I will be absolutely devastated if you close it. Number 5.
Number 5 this weekend, the Golden Ticket Awards. It's going to be in San Antonio. You're going to have golden for things like the best park, best shows, best wooden coaster, best steel coaster, best marine life, best food. Just so many different awards. It's so well done. We talked about it in our last episode. If you're in the amusement industry, I mean, this is the Academy Awards, the Golden Globes, the industry.
Yeah, I'm so glad we have it. So parks that work so hard to be the friendliest, the cleanest, and so on can get recognized for all their hard work. So, we'll probably recap the winners in the next episode, but ahead of time, congratulations to everybody who wins. It's probably well deserved, even though I don't always agree with them, but same with any award show. All right, so Don, this next one is going to be one that kind of hits near and dear to you because Cedar Point made an announcement this past week that has a lot of buzz talking, a lot of people talking, and they're wondering exactly what things are going to look like here in the not so distant future at our friends up north. And of course, I'm talking about Halloweekends 25th anniversary. So Halloweekends turns 25. So what a great event. I actually got to attend it last year and I loved their haunted houses. It was so fun. Have you ever made it up to Halloweekends, at least in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I try to do it every year. You're right. It is so well done. Love the mazes that they have, both the indoor and outdoor attractions. I think just looking around the park and all the decor that they have out, I mean, they really capture the spirit, and I think it's just so well done. And 25 years, back in 1997 when they first did it, there was a lot of hesitation, a lot of concern. Is anybody going to come for
Right.
this? But then you look at it, people, they have options. You can be scared on a roller coaster. You can be scared going through the mazes. And, to the surprise, it worked and worked well. And here we are 25 years later.
Yeah, it's 25 years later, they still have it. And, other parks have added it, and any park that doesn't have it will add it. Halloween is the second biggest spending season behind Christmas. And I guess people have moved on, not people, but the parks have moved on from Halloween to Christmas because now you're seeing more Christmas events, even in Canada, So, so Halloweekends is, it's got 2 new mazes this year. It's got Bloodbath, which is near Steel Vengeance, and The Haunting of Erie Estate near Planet Snoopy, which is replacing two other previous retired mazes. But yeah, they got really cool effects and stuff. So if you guys are ever on the fence about going to Halloweekends, check it out. I mean, it's really, really, really cool. And then your gold or platinum or whatever pass gets you into it. So very, very cool. All right.
Yeah, in addition to the new mazes there too, Ryan, we've also, when you look at Cedar Point, they've expanded the event in terms of they're going to be open on Thursday nights this year. So
Right.
that's something that gives you those additional days if you're a pass holder. But also, it's a good way to kind of maybe spread out the crowd a little bit. So everybody's not coming on Saturday. You now have Thursday nights as another option to go.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So congratulations to them. One thing that I do like about Halloweekends and this is after having visited with a friend that had a 5-year-old. The 5-year-old's pretty bold, doesn't really get scared, but I do observe different things when I'm with them. Is that Halloweekends, like the haunt mazes and stuff, is all concentrated in the back of the park. So the whole Kitty Kingdom and all that is essentially unaffected by it. There's no fog or anything up there. So I think it's awesome that they have that luxury and they take advantage of it. But yeah, so good
Yes,
luck to Cedar
best of
Point.
both worlds there.
Yeah, I completely agree. So Don, have you talked about Buc-ee's yet this episode?
I have not talked about Buc-ee's this episode, but I was going to, and I'm very excited that I'll be going to Buc-ee's in a few weeks here,
Oh yeah.
away in Richmond, Kentucky. So yeah, just gonna stop by Buc-ee's on my way to somewhere and on my way back. And this time I'm gonna try the breakfast food that they have. I've heard it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So that, and then on the way back, it'll be a little bit later in the day, and I'll get my melt and the brisket and all the food that is just so good there, Ryan. You really got to go and try it.
Well, I have tried it. I love it. Now, one thing that we meant to bring up in the last cast, you and I discussed, and it's kind of late in this one, so we'll have to do it again next week, is we have had people asking about Attractions Group t-shirts. We
have.
So we that is something that is on the table. That is something we're working on. If you are interested in it, then send us a private message on Twitter. Remember, our Twitter handle is @attractions_GRP. Just send us a private message, and we'll work with you to see what we can do as far as pricing and getting the shirt to you and getting a design that you like and so on. Cool. So Don, any final
And we've got
words
them
of
in all
wisdom?
sizes: small, medium, large, extra large, double extra large, triple extra large. Yeah, we can get the shirts any size that you want,
Oh,
Ryan.
that's amazing. I love variety. Because you can get I can get like a small or medium shirt so I can show off my physique when I go to Cedar Point Halloweekends, or I can get an extra, extra, extra large and I can sleep in it at Breakers.
There you
Food for
go.
thought.
Yeah, just again, message us through our Twitter if you're interested in getting an Attractions Group T-shirt. So there'll be some other merchandise down the line as well. So we're going to start small with the T-shirts.
Yeah, we'll start selling some t-shirts and feel free to tweet at us if you have any ideas for merchandise that you'd like to see. I was thinking maybe a Don Helbig picture book. One of those where you flip through the pages and he animates. That would be kind of fun. But seriously, yeah, if you have any ideas,
Better than a bobblehead.
That's true. We could do the dual bobbleheads of us with our headsets on, bobbing back and forth, wearing Hawaiian shirts, and you're holding your Buc-ee's mug, and I've got water this time, but I would probably be holding a Coke Zero in it or something. But yeah. So Don, any final words of wisdom to send people off for the week?
We are at 90 followers on Twitter as of this podcast. We want to get to 100. Once we do, I'm going to start giving away some of my theme park memorabilia. There's some really cool things I need to get out of my storage. I need to clear up some space. So please, if you know anyone out there that's interested in the attractions industry, tell them to follow us, and then we can start giving away some prizes.
Yep, because your clean garage space is their benefit. Yeah, absolutely. I again, like I want to go live and give some stuff away some evening. That would be kind of fun once we get enough, with the YouTube subscribers and the Twitter followers and stuff. But again, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for listening to me ramble and Don give advice. We are signing off for the week, but we're gonna have a really exciting episode next week, and then ahead we got some really cool guests coming up. I'm not going to spill the beans, but you're definitely going to want to listen. So make sure you subscribe on all of your favorite podcast apps, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and so on, and follow us, or I guess subscribe on YouTube, searching for the Attractions Group Podcast. So thank you everybody so much, and we'll see you next week.